Video we're going to be finding common denominators. When you add or subtract fractions, or when you're ordering fractions, oftentimes it helps to have common denominators with the fractions. So there's a number of strategies that you can use. I'm going to show you two in this video. And one of the things that everyday math talks about is quick common denominators. And for quick common denominators, all you do is you take the denominator from one fraction multiplied by the denominator from the other fraction. So in this case, for a quick common denominator, you would take 6 times 8, which equals 48. So our common denominators for these fractions would be 48. Now, once you've got your common denominator, now you need to make an equivalent fraction. So 6 times 8 equals 48. We use the 8 from the other denominator. So if you do 6 times 8, you have to do the same thing to the numerator to keep the same ratio. So 5 times 8 would be 40. 5 6 equals 40 48ths. Down here, we multiplied by 6, so 8 times 6 is 48. So now we have to do 5 times 6, which is 30. So that gives us common denominators. We could compare the fractions, or we could add them up now. So that's quick common denominators. Another way to find common denominators is to find the multiples of the denominators, and you're going to look to find the least common multiple. So to find the multiples, you can count by the number, you can take the number and multiply it by counting numbers. So 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24, 6 times 5 is 30. So you can think about it that way, or you could just count by sixes: 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, etc. I'm going to stop here. I might need to come back to it later, but we're going to go down to 8. And we've got 8, 16, 24. Now, if I look up here, here's a 24, and here's a 24. So, the smallest number that's the same between both is 24. It's called the least common multiple. So instead of using 48 as a denominator, we could use 24 as a common denominator. So 5 6 and 5 8 make equivalent fractions. We have 24 and 24. So 8 times 3 is 24. So we have to do 5 times 3, which is 15. 6 times 4 is 24. We have to do 5 times 4 for 20. Now you might be wondering, why would you do 24 instead of 48 with a quick common denominator? Well, that comes into play when it's time to simplify your fraction. And I'm not going to go over how to simplify fractions. You can look up you can learn how to do that in the simplifying fractions, or putting fractions in simplest form. So let me clean up some stuff here. Now, we talked about finding equivalent, or finding common denominators so you can compare fractions, or that so you can add or subtract fractions. And both cases we're just going to add them. So 40 48 plus 30 48 equals 70 48. In this problem, tell you what, rewind. Let's do a subtraction problem. We'll make our math a little bit easier here. So 40 48 minus 30 48 would be 10 48. Here, 20 24ths minus 15 24ths is going to be 5 24ths. So, for simplifying a fraction, we have to figure out if the fraction is in simplest form. 10 48ths is not in simplest form. 5 24ths is in simplest form. There's nothing I have to do to this fraction. So yes, I had to do a little bit of work down here to find the least common multiple, but it saved me some time now to put it in simplest form. Here, I'm going to have to put this fraction into simplest form, and I'm going to figure out what number both 10 and 48 is divisible by. Well, they're both even numbers, so they're both divisible by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 48 divided by 2 is 24. So 10 48 is the same as 5 24ths. So you'll have to determine as you're working which number or which strategy you want to use. Do you just want to do the quick common denominators, which you might have to do some more work at the end for simplest form, or do you want to find common denominators by finding the least common multiple of the two denominators? Now you could get some pretty big lists, which can take some time, but then it can save you some time when it comes to putting your fractions into simplest form. If you have any questions, make sure you ask Mr. Brandt, and hopefully you have a little bit better understanding of how to find common denominators to compare fractions or to add or subtract fractions.